Man, this whole thing with Iran it's dividing everybody. Everybody's divided over Iran and Israel. It's not just the Palestinians and the Jews. It's not just the Democrats and the Republicans. It's Tucker and Ted and the ladies on The View, and it's got haywire. And you know what? The only people who still agree are President Donald Trump and the majority of Americans in the United States of America. What's up? This is Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Hi, howdy, what's going on? Hey, thanks so much for listening to the podcast. And I want to make sure that if you are listening to the podcast, that you are also subscribed to said podcast, because this podcast continues to grow every single day. We keep going up in the ranks. We keep getting new listeners and viewers on the live stream. And it's really exciting to see the growth and how we're getting really new Patriots, not just here in the United States of America, which is something that I sometimes take for granted. And, you know, I'm going to be better at that. I'm going to work on that, because I'm in Jacksonville, Florida at Mar-a-Lago, and I'm sitting in Patriot HQ. And I just, assume people in the United States love this show because we talk about America. We talk about the people in charge of America. We talk about the people who are trying to destroy America. And we talk about how we can save America, or save the Republic, as we like to say it. And all the Patriots every single day tune into this broadcast live from Mar-a-Lago in the heart of downtown Jacksonville. But all of that aside, I forget how many people in other countries enjoy this broadcast as well, because here's the thing about America. A lot of people see America as the beacon, as the goal. They see America as this shimmering, glimmering, shiny object that they want. And that is something that permeates, because of the internet, because of our podcast, because of what we're able to do. We're able to get the message and the greatness and the American spirit and patriotism out to the entire world. So sure, there's a lot of folks in tyrannical dictatorships that listen to us. Like, for example, Canada. We have a lot of Canadian listeners, a lot of people who listen in Canada, because they go, yeah, you know what? I wish that Canada was more like the United States of America. Maybe one day we'll get our Trump. I mean, if you stop electing lunatic liberals on the left, maybe you would. The people in other countries, far and wide, in Europe, where the EU arrests you. The cops show up at your door if you post something on Facebook that they don't agree with. A lot of people in the EU and in Great Britain and all over the European Union are begging for this kind of American freedom that they just don't have, that they just don't enjoy anymore, because again, they're living under these tyrannical dictatorships. So they seek out American exceptionalism. They seek out the voice of freedom. They vote the spirit of liberty, and they find us. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and all of the Patriots who are part of it. And we're glad that you're here. Make sure, like I said, you've subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube, to Rumble, to Facebook, to Twitter, wherever you happen to be listening. Do it. We are so close, by the way. I always forget to look at the numbers. I get the YouTube numbers. They send me stuff all the time saying, congratulations, you're this close to 71,000 people. But on Rumble, I don't get that. But I just glanced down. We're very close to 50,000 followers on Rumble, which is ecstatic, which is amazing. If you don't yet follow us on Rumble, but you're watching on Rumble, please follow, because when we get to 50,000 followers on Rumble, I don't think we get anything. It's not like we get YouTube, you get like a little plaque if you hit 100 grand. But it's just a nice round number. 49.9 thousand is great, but 50,000, that sounds really cool. So if you're watching on Rumble, please like us, share us, make sure that all your friends and family know. If you know anybody who's a liberty-loving, freedom-defending patriot just like you, and they maybe haven't found our broadcast yet, share it with them. Do them a solid. That's how we grow. I went yesterday to, I did another event. I've been doing a lot of events. In fact, I've got another one tomorrow. But when you run for Congress, which I'm doing, by the way, maybe you didn't notice my hat. Let me get up there real close so you can see my Mark Kaye for Congress in 2026. Now that I'm running for Congress, I talk to people all the time. In fact, I'm probably going to be talking to groups every single day till 2027. And then maybe beyond. But I'm going to be talking to people every single day to 2027. And I was out last night in St. Johns County, Florida. It was a delightful group of people, a delightful group of liberty-loving, freedom-defending patriots who wanted to hear what I had to say. And it's awesome for a couple of reasons, because I get to go out and I get to say, here's the reason why I'm running for Congress. The Democrats are crazy and the Republicans aren't doing anything about it. And we're in real danger of losing the House of Representatives. 97% chance that we will lose the House of Representatives, 97% chance. And we need combative conservatives to fight the Democrats for the next 2 years so Donald Trump's agenda can continue to be can be executed. That's really the reason. That's really the goal. And I love going to talk to people about it because they go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And if it makes sense to them, then I know that it's the right reason. And then they start asking me questions, which is great. Because if you ask somebody questions, then you see, first of all, they get to see if I'm knowledgeable or if I'm intelligent or if I have a plan or if I'm honest. Because if I don't know the answer, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to make something up. It's not like I used to do with my kids. They would ask me a question about something and I'd be like, oh, I just make something up creatively. No, I'll be honest with you. So I think that's one thing, but also it helps me realize what is on the minds of the voters. What do people care about? Because they're not going to ask you about something unless they care about it. So anyway, it's the long story short, it's a great thing to do. And I love going out and talking to people. But one of the things I noticed yesterday when I talked to all of these folks is that there is this, when you go out and you connect with somebody, these people, they connect with you. And then the first thing they want to do is tell all their friends. Or they're like, I was giving out stickers yesterday. I was giving out pocket constitutions, the original vaccine passport. And all of these folks were like, can I have some for my friend? I want your friend to listen to the show. Can I have some for my cousin? He would love you, that kind of thing. Or my mom has been watching you since she was little. She couldn't come today. So spreading the word. Word of mouth. I mean, we are an entire grassroots operation. This entire podcast, this entire media company that we have here that we're able to do every single day what we do is because of word of mouth. So spread it, man. Spread it like manure. Spread it like Chuck Schumer spreads lies. Spread the word of Mark Kaye saves the Republic and Mark Kaye for Congress the way the Democrats spread mayhem and criminal behavior far and wide, because that's exactly what they do. Let's start today, by the way, with something happy and something patriotic. Speaking of which, President Donald Trump, again, promises made, promises kept. You may remember it was a couple months ago, and it was really kind of like this offhanded. He just like kind of just off, like willy-nilly. It was just like an offhanded tweet or a truth post. He just said, oh, by the way, I'm buying 2 huge flagpoles for the White House. Because that's what Donald Trump will write something like, this person sucks, this person's horrible, this person's a rhino, you got to pass the one big beautiful bill. And then in the middle of all of it, he goes, by the way, I was walking around the White House and I said, you know what this place needs? 2 ginormous flagpoles, one here on the North Lawn, one there on the South Lawn with ginormous American flags. We don't have any ginormous American flags here at the White House. Donald Trump, they have more ginormous American flags at car dealerships than they do at the White House. And Donald Trump thought that was a travesty. So he said, on my own dime, it's not taxpayer money, it's a gift to the American people. I am purchasing 2 big flagpoles. I'm going to have them installed at the White House. I'm going to have ginormous flags hanging off of those flagpoles. And a man of his word, that's exactly what happened. He had the workers out today at 7:30, bright and early. Donald Trump went out there. They were all wearing those Donald Trump vests, and they were putting in these flagpoles. And Donald Trump took a moment to appreciate the men who were doing the work, and of course, take a dig at the press as well.
And I hope you enjoy it. And let's see how real people work. These are real people. You're not real people. Your job is to reach them. Okay.
That's one around.
Let's see how real people work. You guys are real people. You're not real people. You're the media. You're not real people. Your job's too easy. We're going to see how real people work in America. And then the flag went up. And one reporter asked Donald Trump, what gave you the idea for these flagpoles? This is the kind of question only a fake news media reporter would ask. It's the president of the United States of America standing in the Capitol of the United States of America at the White House, the executive branch headquarters of the United States of America, and he's installing 2 large flagpoles to proudly wave the flag of the United States of America. And this reporter goes, "Hey, what gave you the idea for this?" And I have to go, I mean, what? It's the American flag. You can never have too many flags. Anyway, here is Donald Trump's very poetic and very impressive answer.
What gave you the idea to do this?
I've had it for a long time. The first time I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference. Big difference.
Okay, and he taps the guy in the belly. I love the little belly tap. That's one sign of that's like a true alpha male thing to do. He goes, look, I had this idea for a long time, but then you guys came after me. Donald Trump always tells it like it is. He's like, you guys came after me. Who's he talking about? The media, the Democrats, the lunatics on the left, the United States House of Representatives led by Nancy Pelosi and her bogus impeachment team, Adam Schiff, all of them. Donald Trump, I've had this idea for a long time, but you guys came after me. And so it didn't get done. You guys, I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. Belly tap. And the belly tap, when a guy taps another guy in the belly, that guy, that's a dominant thing. He's claiming dominance. He's saying, I'm going to tap your belly, and you're not going to do a gosh darn thing about it because I am dominant over you. But listen to this. This is a question about a flag, but it's an answer about the entire Democrat Party and President Donald Trump's administration.
What gave you the idea to do this?
I've had it for a long time. In the first term I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Big difference, big guy. Donald Trump said, I had this idea in the first term, but then you guys came after me and I had to focus. Now think about that, because Donald Trump's now in his second term. And the House of Representatives is controlled by the Republicans. Senate controlled by the Republicans. The White House controlled by the Republicans. Donald Trump can focus on the things he wants to focus on. He can focus on fixing the economy. He can focus on the one big beautiful bill. He can focus on creating Trump accounts. He can focus on putting in flagpoles. He can focus on celebrating the 250th anniversary of this great country. He can focus on all those incredible things because nobody is after him. He's no longer the hunted. He is now the hunter. Rawr. But in 2026, there is a midterm election. And if the Democrats, God forbid, somehow take control of the House of Representatives, Donald Trump will be the hunted once again. And he'll have to focus on that once again. And if he has to focus on impeachment, if he has to focus on fighting the Democrats, if he has to focus on whatever shenanigans they bring forward, then the rest of the stuff that he wants to focus on is going to get pushed out. It's going to get pushed by the wayside once again, just like it did in the first term. That's a stark warning. That's a stark warning to everybody. Not only in 2026 is it important that we elect Republicans to the House of Representatives in greater numbers than we do the Democrats, but as an insurance policy, as a JIC, as a just in case, we got to make sure that the Republicans we're sending there are the right Republicans. Conservative Republicans, combative Republicans, Republicans who are going to get in the face of the Democrats and stop them from stopping President Donald Trump. That's why I'm running for Congress, because we don't have those kind of Democrats currently. Well, at least not in my neck of the woods. At least not in my neck of the woods. They also asked President Donald Trump, of course they asked him, because they always do. They also asked President Donald Trump about Iran, because they asked and they said, hey, what would you say, President Trump, to the supreme leader of Iran right now if he doesn't surrender?
What do you say to the supreme leader of Iran who says that they will not surrender?
Say good luck.
What is the end game?
I'd say good luck. What would you say to the supreme leader of Iran? I'd say good luck, dude. You're going to need it. You're going to need it. Good luck, buddy, because that's all you can hope for right now. Israel and the United States of America are potentially working together on making sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. And that is something that President Donald Trump has said over and over and over. It's just over and over and over again. I have it here. They asked him if he was looking for a long-term war. Where is that one? Here, listen to this. This was another question. Are you looking? Listen to Donald Trump's answer, because I'm pretty sure you've heard this before.
Some of the people in the base don't want a long-term war. They're afraid that we're going to get into a long-term war.
We're not looking for a long-term war. We're looking. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Right. That's it. I'm not looking long-term, short-term. And I've been saying that for 20 years. I've been saying it as a civilian who got a lot of publicity. People would cover it. Very simply, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. It's not a question of anything else. And If you did, you wouldn't have much of a country because they would use it on us and they'd use it on other people and there'd be a terror all over the world.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We hear it again, over and over again. It's not about a long-term war. It's about keeping Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's been my position for 20 years, he said. It's been my position since before I was president. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He said it over. We played the long clip, the mashup of President Donald Trump saying Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon over and over and over and over and over again. And guess what? It's not just Donald Trump who feels that way. It's the majority of Americans, not Republicans. Americans. The majority of Americans also concur that Iran cannot have, never, have a nuclear weapon. Listen to CNN, Harry Enton being forced to report that Americans agree in vast numbers, both on the left and the right, with President Donald Trump.
And overall, I feel like there's more support for Donald Trump's positions than is comically acknowledged. Oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon.
Okay, that's 79% of all adults, not GOP adults, not Democrat adults, not Indian. It's all adults in the United States of America. 79%, which means only 21% oppose. Only 21% oppose Donald Trump saying Iran can never get a nuclear weapon, or say, it'd be fine if Iran had a nuclear weapon. Those 21% of people, by the way, they idiots. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me play the rest of the clip. Where did it go? Oh no, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me go back and let me pull that clip because that's just the beginning of it. Oh, there's way more. And I have it right. How do you spell CNN? Here we go. Where the hell did it go? Hang on. I got it right here. CNN. Wait a minute. I did have it. Oh, resume last video. Here we go.
3% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear weapons.
All right, look at these numbers. 79% of all adults, 83% of the GOP, okay? 79% of independents. And we all know independents are basically Democrats and never Trumpers. And 79% of Democrats. There's not one demographic here under 79%. I mean, that's basically 80%. 80% of all adults, 80% of the GOP, 80% of independents, and 80% of Democrats all agree Iran can never get a nuclear weapon.
So this is a nuance here, but, Trump and Netanyahu both arguing that Iran is close to being capable of making a nuclear weapon. If that is the case, what is the feeling of Americans as to whether the United States should get involved in this conflict?
Right. If you buy Donald Trump's theory of the case, and I think that's important to note, this is polling from April. If Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at this. Overall, you get the slight plurality. I mean, it's within the margin of error, but the slight plurality of Americans actually favor U.S. airstrikes compared to 47% opposing it. Now, here's the other nugget I'll note, right? There's been a lot of talk online and on social media and in podcasts of a divide within the Republican ranks. But here on this question, if Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at that. 69% of Republicans, the clear vast majority of Republicans, favor U.S. airstrikes on Iran, on their nuclear facilities. But there is this substantial minority, 27%, who oppose such an idea. So it's not surprising you're hearing those other voices besides Donald Trump out there. There are plenty of them in the Republican ranks who oppose the U.S. striking Iran if they're trying to make a nuclear weapon. But the clear majority of Republicans are with Donald Trump. If, in fact, Iran is trying to make nuclear weapons, they do, in fact, potentially favor U.S. airstrikes.
Okay, now there's a couple of things about this that we need to point out. First of all, look at what he says here. Look at the question, okay? Favor U.S. airstrikes. All right, it was not favor war, favor long-term war, favor declaring war, favor World War III. It was airstrikes, targeted airstrikes with a tactical mission objective. Destroy Iran's nuclear capability. Not murder millions of people, not a regime change, no matter what Lindsey Graham, none of that. It is targeted airstrikes to make sure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon.
And overall, I feel like there's more support for
You have a majority of Americans, 48% overall, over 47%, favoring U.S. airstrikes, and 70% of the GOP. Now, as he pointed out, there's a vocal minority there that is loud and does not want the airstrikes and does not agree with President Donald Trump. And that vocal minority is being led by Tucker Carlson, or as Donald Trump prefers to call him these days, kooky Tucker Carlson. And kooky Tucker Carlson released a clip of an upcoming interview he has with Ted Cruz. Now, say what you will about Tucker Carlson, say what you will about Ted Cruz. I know there are people that like both of them, and there are people that don't like either of them, and people that like one and not the other. But Tucker Carlson bullied and bloodied Ted Cruz during this interview over Ted Cruz's stance with Iran. Not just his stance with Iran, but let's just be honest. Ted Cruz did not come prepared for Tucker Carlson. Here's the clip that Tucker Carlson released. Now, the entire interview, I think, is coming out tomorrow. But listen to this. Listen to Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz talk about Ted Cruz's plan to seek regime change in Iran.
How many people live in Iran, by the way? I don't know the population. At all? No, I don't know the population. You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple? How many people live in Iran? 92 million. Okay.
Okay. So not the best look for Ted Cruz that he doesn't know the answer to the question, how many people live in Iran? And Tucker Carlson says, I mean, you want to topple this country. You don't know how many people you're going to leave without a government. Yes, he probably should have done some homework. He probably should know a little bit more about him, and he probably should have played it off a little bit better. But Ted Cruz, I guess, thought he was in friendly territory.
Yeah. How could you not know?
Okay. Tucker Carlson pulled his little Tucker Carlson face and laugh and everything else. But he's saying you're a U.S. senator calling for the overthrow of the country, and you don't know anything about the country. You're calling for the overthrow of Iran, and you don't know anything about Iran. You don't know the population of Iran. You don't know the ethnic makeup. Ted Cruz stumbling and bumbling around. Well, they're Persians, and there's some Shiites, and that he pulling buzzwords out of his butt. And it's true. He's not the best representative in this particular case for what Tucker Carlson is arguing against.
I don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
Israel.
Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's Ted. It was like cross-examination. Tucker Carlson thought he was cross-examining a witness, which I guess he was, and Ted Cruz was not prepared. Ted Cruz thought he was coming in for a friendly interview. That was not the case, because Tucker Carlson is an invade Iran or attack Iran or airstrike. He's one of the 27% that Harry Enton and CNN were pinpointing in their poll. This started the other day, of course, when Tucker Carlson came out with I guess he had an email newsletter or something where he said that Donald Trump was going down the wrong road. Donald Trump called him kooky Tucker Carlson. He then had an interview with Steve Bannon on War Room, and Steve Bannon, I'm going to be honest with you, Steve Bannon I thought was a little light on Tucker Carlson. I thought he would go after him a little bit more. And now Tucker's headed out. He's taking on Ted Cruz, who, I'm going to be honest with you, seemed like kind of an easy target. And I'm not saying that it doesn't 100% matter if you know the exact population, but you should know some basic stuff about Iran if you are calling for a regime change. I don't know if Lindsey Graham is going to be on there next, but Lindsey Graham, I imagine, knows absolutely nothing. Knows absolutely nothing about anything, really. Anyway, that whole interview drops tomorrow, so there'll be more. We'll see how Ted Cruz bounces back. But I think there's many different factions at play here, and the one thing that you need to remember is that Tucker Carlson, Well, I guess I'll put him over here. Tucker Carlson is over here, and he's saying we shouldn't strike Iran at all. We shouldn't bomb Iran at all. Israel shouldn't be bombing Iran, and President Donald Trump should have done more to get Benjamin Netanyahu to not bomb Iran. And what we're doing is intervening, and it's an interventionist policy, and President Donald Trump ran on a no interventionist, America first, no new wars policy. And now he's going back on his promises, and MAGA should be furious. That's an extreme position. Then you have Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and a handful of others who are over here saying, let's involve ourselves in this conflict. Let's get in there. Let's start airstrikes. Let's bomb the snot out of Iran. Let's kill the supreme leader. Let's get rid of their fortified uranium, what do you call it? Their supplies. And let's start over. Let's just wipe the slate clean and start over in Iran, no matter what it takes. Regime change. And in the middle, you've got Donald Trump, who's saying neither of those things. President Donald Trump, he's not saying regime change. He's not saying we need to kill the supreme leader. In fact, he's saying the opposite. He's not saying we need regime change. In fact, he's saying the opposite. He's not saying the only thing Donald Trump has said, the only thing Donald Trump has ever said is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He has said it over and over and over again. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So while Ted Cruz is arguing for regime change and Tucker Carlson is arguing for a complete and total isolationism, Donald Trump is saying, look, they can't have a nuclear weapon. And if it means letting Israel, none of my business, none of my beeswax. I mean, yeah, I talked to Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah, I'm a good friend. In fact, he admitted, I talk to Benjamin Netanyahu every day. I tell him to keep going.
Mr. President, can you share some of what you've told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
He said, keep going. What do I say? I speak to him every day. He's a good man, doing a lot. Been very unfairly treated by his country, I think. Very unfairly treated.
Have you given him any indication that you may seek to aid them more than you have already?
No, I haven't. So far, he's doing a good job. He has been treated very unfairly by his country. He's a wartime president, and he's going through this nonsense. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like you got a good meeting with him.
Okay, have you given him any indication? Have you given him any indication that you're going to join in this fight or that you're going to escalate the United States' involvement? No, that's not. He's doing a good job. Israel is a sovereign nation. Iran is a sovereign nation. If Israel gets invaded by Iran, which they did when Hezbollah and Hamas and everyone else bombed them and killed all their citizens and dragged them away and, kept them in Gaza in the tunnels and killed some more of them and that was a declaration of war on Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu has been planning and preparing and executing and fighting this war ever since then. So Benjamin Netanyahu says, okay, now we're going to go bomb the snot out of Iran and we're going to make sure that they don't have any nuclear capability. And Donald Trump says, I have said I'm an isolationist president. I am putting America first. So if you want to do that, go ahead. Go right ahead. I'm not going to stop. He did stop him a couple times, but he said, I'm not going to stop you. And that to me is America first. That to me is isolationism. That is not starting any new wars. And Donald Trump said, I have no plans to enter the war, but I've been very clear that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Not now, not today, not tomorrow, not ever. It's never going to happen. And so if it means targeted strikes, direct strikes, well-planned airstrikes to deliver a fatal blast to any and all uranium enrichment or nuclear power plants or bomb and military munitions creating facilities in Iran to make sure that they don't have a nuclear weapon, then that's exactly what I'm going to do. Because I never said a gosh darn word about regime change. I never said a gosh darn word about, isolationism to the point where it's detrimental to the United States of America or our allies. I said we're not going to start any new wars, but Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Don't let Iran have nuclear weapons. They can't have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And I don't want it to be a violent thing, but they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They can't have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They can't have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to allow that. They can't have a nuclear weapon. That's all. They can't have nuclear weapons. But I wanted to make a deal with them. No nuclear weapons. You can't have nuclear weapons. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing. The one thing I said, you cannot have. I just didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I said, we're going to make a great deal. Everybody's going to be happy. You're going to be rich as hell again. Everything's going to be great. But you cannot have a nuclear weapon.
You can't let Iran have nuclear weapons.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Very simple. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. We have a very hostile country that wants nuclear weapons. Can't let that happen.
Iran should never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon.
Iran can't have a nuclear, it can't have a missile, can't have a nuclear missile. It cannot have that nuclear capability.
Yeah, that's all he said. And Donald Trump, it's very simple. It's not a complex policy at all. If Iran wants to have a nuclear weapon, the answer is no. If they try to have a nuclear weapon, then we're going to do whatever we can to keep them from getting that nuclear weapon. And he said it over and over and over again. And this is why, by the way, I do the 47 Daily podcast every single day. The whole concept behind the 47 Daily podcast, which you can listen to and download at the47daily.com, was this. During the transition, when Donald Trump was elected to office, he went down to Mar-a-Lago with his transition team, and he had everybody, and the Susie Wiles was there, and all his kids were there, all the advisors. I think Charlie Kirk made an appearance. They all got it. They locked themselves into a room at Mar-a-Lago, and they started making decisions. And what happened? We started hearing fake news. We started hearing fake appointments. We started hearing this person's going to be in charge of the FBI, and everyone was freaking out. Then we heard this person was going to be in charge of the Treasury, and everybody was freaking out about that. And none of it was true. And I said, we need a podcast. We need a way to deliver information that is real, that is honest, that is truthful about Donald Trump's transition team. And so I called Caroline Leavitt and I said, I know you're working there. Can you get me on the list? Can you send me the press releases? Can I get the info? And boom, all of a sudden I started getting the info. I started getting the press releases. I got more press releases than I think I did. They sent more press announcements during the transition than I think they have since they got to office. But it was fast and furious. And every single day I said, here's what the transition team is telling you. I didn't pull any news clips. I didn't play anything. I said, here's what this is direct from Donald Trump's campaign, direct from Susie Wiles, direct from the transition team, direct from Mar-a-Lago. That's it. Don't believe any other thing you hear because they're lying to you. And then Donald Trump became president and we switched. We said, okay, now he's in the White House. So now the 47 Daily is information directly from Donald Trump's executive branch, from the White House to my mouth to your ears for the next 4 years. That is the 47 Daily. That is the goal of the 47 Daily podcast. Again, which you can hear at the47daily.com. And that means that the only thing we do is we play clips from Donald Trump because that's straight from the horse's mouth. We play clips from Caroline Leavitt and anyone else in the press department. We play clips from anyone in the cabinet, Kristi Noem or Scott Bessent or Marco Rubio or Doug Collins or whoever happens to be, important and pertinent, Pete Hegseth. Anything and everything from the executive branch, that's it. And it's important because as you can see on this show, Tucker Carlson's blowing things out of proportion. Ted Cruz is blowing things out of proportion. Lindsey Graham's blowing things out of proportion. The media's blowing things out of proportion. And the Democrats are just flat out lying about everything. Donald Trump doesn't want to start a war. He doesn't want regime change. He just wants them to never have a nuclear weapon. And if they persist in that goal, well, he said it best when to the media, tell him good luck. Good luck. Listen, it's not just Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz who are battling this out. There's a division in the Democrat Party as well. The ladies of The View had some problems with each other. But first, I want to shout out Farm Life 2012. Farm Life 2012 on Rumble. Thank you, Rumble. Rumble numbers are growing, by the way. We're almost to 50,000 on Rumble. Farm Life 2012 on Rumble, a $10 Rumble rant. And it said, Schumer was right. Trump is inciting an erection. 2 today. That's the flags. I get it. I like it. Donald Trump erected 2 big poles today. 2-pole erection at the White House. One on the North Lawn, one on the South Lawn. Farm Life 2012, thank you so much for the very generous Rumble rant, and thank you for making us. I love a Rumble rant that's also a joke. That's like a double. That's worth it 2 times over. Scott Keller left us a super chat on YouTube, $20. Scott, thank you so much. That is very, very generous of you. Mark needs to dress like Mr. Clean, showing he is running to clean up Congress. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I like the idea. I don't know that I have the physique for Mr. Clean's really, he's like buff, right? Like I don't hit the gym. Mr. Clean, when he puts on that white shirt and it's a tight shirt, he wears it well. Mine, it wouldn't be as tight up. It'd be more tighter in the belly area and I don't think it would be Mr. And it wouldn't be, people would call me Mr. Clean and Sober. Is what they'd be like, that guy. I don't know what happened with him. But no, I appreciate the sentiment. Thank you so much and thank you for the very, very, very generous super chat on YouTube. If you'd like to drop a super chat, we will read out whatever you write in that little box along with your super chat. And of course, everything you donate, everything you make, every time you throw money at us, it goes directly back into the show because of your support. Because we are independent. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic is me, couple of staffers, all of you, and that's it. And we've got a company to run, and we've got mouths to feed and everything else. And I'm only able to do this every single day and provide this content every single day because you guys support us, both by listening and with your monetary donations, by buying our products, by donating to the campaign, all that great stuff. So thank you very much for all of your generosity. And if you leave us a Rumble rant or if you drop a super chat, we'll read it before the end of the show today. I promise. All right. So the ladies on The View are torn by Donald Trump's support for, Donald Trump's support to keep Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon. This is fascinating to me. This is really, really fascinating to me because I'll be honest with you. We have what I thought was a conglomeration of lunatic liberals on the left sitting at this table every single day, talking about how horrible Donald Trump was and how bad Donald Trump was and how he was going to start World War III and all this other junk. But apparently, they also, some of them, understand the danger of nuclear weapons getting into the wrong hands. Joy Behar, who I thought she was Jewish, but I don't know if she is or not. But Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin got into a very heated argument on The View today about this very issue. Listen to this.
Canada was saying
and illegal.
Was going to build a nuclear bomb and they threatened to kill us all. What would we do?
You have to do it diplomatically, Joy.
Really?
You can't just
What's
bomb
so
a country.
diplomatic about having a nuclear bomb and threatening another
country? First of all, they don't necessarily have a nuclear bomb. President Obama, one of his foreign policy wins was that he had an agreement with Iran.
They're building it.
And well, Trump actually
Obama acknowledged that they were building.
But Trump actually rolled out of that bill. And that's why I think Israel took this opportunity, because if there had been an agreement between the U.S. and Iran, a nuclear agreement, Israel could not have bombed.
Israel
and so
has had a target on its back its entire existence from every terrorist organization known to man. And Iran is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Doesn't mean you can proactively
I'm just
bomb
saying
a
that
country.
these are the people that attacked them. They fund Hamas. I understand why they're doing it. And by the way, let me remind people about Mahsa Amini, who's an Iranian woman who was killed for miswearing her hijab. More than a vast majority of that country is also not happy with the people in power.
Like what
okay. By the way,
they deserve.
By the way, Sarah Haynes checking her notes just destroys all credibility. When you have to check your notes and read your bullet points, it shows that you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just reading whatever copy the producers handed to you before you went. Anyway, but there's more.
I'm saying I'm not going to defend the legalness of a terrorist nation that has.
By the way, I think the word she's looking for is legality. The legality. I think she said legalness, but I think she meant legality.
With the people in
so we
power.
Don't like what another country is doing.
Deserve
so we can
I'm
bomb.
saying I'm not going to defend the legalness of a terrorist nation that has been funding people, killing people for decades, and say, well, they didn't follow the rules. They've never followed.
I just want to throw this in there. you might want to think about this, because the reason there is diplomacy is so people are not bombing each other willy-nilly.
Yeah. Which is why I commend what's going on right now, because the U.S. is not actively involved.
Well, no, they're not actively involved because by law,
they're not supposed to.
He can't make that decision unilaterally.
If I was the target of every country,
unilaterally.
Oh, but by the way, Iran has launched ballistic missile attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq in just 3 years ago, preemptively. They have attacked Israel preemptively. They're a terrorist nation and the biggest.
So
should we do what they do?
No, as I said, the people of Iran have self-determination, and they want the Ayatollah gone. They should do it internally through a democratic
process. And by the way, I want
Okay, so here's how the View sets out. You've got Sunny Hostin and Whoopi Goldberg, who are evidently pro-Iran, or they don't want Donald Trump getting involved, or they don't think Donald Trump should get involved, or they want to try diplomacy instead of... They're Tucker Carlson, I guess. They're on Tucker's side, which is weird to say. It's weird to say that Whoopi Goldberg and Sunny Hostin are siding with Tucker Carlson, but then you've got the rest of them. You've got Alyssa Farah Green or Griffin or whatever her name is, who supposedly is a Republican but isn't. You've got Sarah Haynes, and you've got Joy Behar all arguing on the side of Israel, saying, look, if somebody's got a nuclear weapon and they're saying we're going to use it against you, why should you try to diplomatically end that threat? Why don't you just bomb them if you can? And so that's not even the worst part. I mean, it's a weird conversation to hear the View have, and it's weird to hear how they disagree on it, because I just thought all of a sudden they would all be against President Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, I'm shocked to hear that there's some of them who agree. I thought they all five would have been like, Donald Trump, that Iran should totally have a nuclear weapon because Donald Trump said they shouldn't. Iran should totally have a nuclear weapon because Donald Trump doesn't want to have them, because Donald Trump's always wrong. I thought that's what they were going to do. Ironically, they're having a somewhat divided conversation. And you might notice that Whoopi Goldberg, who's black, and Sunny Hostin, who's black, they both disagree with the bombing of Iran or keeping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Whoopi Goldberg decided, you know what? We're going to enter race into the conversation. And she proceeded to say and she said a lot of dumb things. She's had to read a lot of legal notices in the past. She's had to read legal notices about calling the TPUSA folks Nazis. You may remember in Tampa a couple years ago. She's had to read legal notices about Donald Trump being charged with rape allegations, which was not true. She's had to read a lot of legal notices in her lifetime. But she continues to go out there and say dumb things. Here she says, well, you know what? I'll just play it for you, and then we can discuss.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say.
Okay, so so the human rights violations in Iran against gay people, against women, against gay women, I don't even know, but are atrocious, and they murder people and they kill people, and you can be sentenced to death for what seems like a petty crime here in the United States of America. And it's all sponsored by Sharia law. It's not just a group of people who do something and break the law. I mean, here in the United States, what Whoopi Goldberg's talking about, those atrocious things that happened, those were all against the law. And a lot of times there were lawsuits and there were criminal charges and people went to jail and that kind of thing. In Iran, that's just the way it is. You're gay, you got thrown off of a building. Well, that's Sharia law. Ha ha ha. Sorry. And Alyssa Farah Green is actually trying to make a point that Sharia law and what happens in Iran and the way that they treat people, women especially, is just abominable. Whoopi Goldberg says, no, that's nowhere near as bad as what they do here in the United States of America.
Is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Killed for
I'm sorry.
Well, they wear like
Listen, no, I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you, as
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes, it is up to them.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Oh, look at that. It's very different as a woman to live in Iran in 2025 than in the United States. And Whoopi Goldberg says, not if you're black. What? Wait, what? Women in Iran. Women in Iran. And Sarah Haynes just pointed out the one woman had her hijab on like crooked, so they killed her. Women in Iran are murdered basically every day for no reason. And Whoopi Goldberg says, it's not as bad as being a black person in the United States in 2025. Really? Says the black person sitting on a TV network with a $62 million net worth, according to CelebrityNetworth.com. It's amazing. Whoopi Goldberg, she saw an opportunity to insert racism into this conversation, and man, she took it. I feel like, you know how like when there's live shows, I don't know if you've ever been to a live show or if you've seen it, but they have an applause sign. And there's a producer's job, either a showrunner or producer, whatever. It's their job when there's an applause line or when there's a lull or when they're trying to, make the host seem like they're more entertaining, whatever. Or right before they go to commercial, they hit the applause sign and it blinks and the audience goes, oh, yay. I feel like Whoopi Goldberg has a racism sign. And if she goes too long, if the conversation goes too long and she doesn't insert some kind of racial stupidity in it, then some producer somewhere hits the racism sign and it's right in front of Whoopi and she's like, oh, right, not as bad as being black in America. And all of a sudden, that's it. Now the conversation isn't about regime change in Iran. It's not about Israel defending itself. It's not about the nuclear capability of the supreme leader. Now it's all about race. And how here in the United States of America, black people are way worse off than women in Iran. And so Donald Trump is horrible.
Not if you're black.
Guys, don't go to Tehran. Do not anyone at this table should go to Tehran.
Let me tell you about being in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. But yeah, I know that. And we all know that. But every day we are worried. Do we have to be worried about our kids? Are our kids going to get shot because they're running through somebody's neighborhood? They are not big deals, and I don't mean to say they're not big deals to you, because that's not what I meant.
And they are not doing well there either. They are not doing well in Iran. They are not educated. They cannot property. They cannot leave States.
I'm talking about here.
Nobody wants to diminish the very real problems we have in this country. That is no one's intent.
Good.
But I think it's important we remember there are places much darker than this country and people who deserve rights.
Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way.
I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know where to begin. Yes, there's problems in this country, but they're nowhere near as bad as they are in Iran. Yes, there are people in this country who are treated unfairly, and women and minorities, but it's nowhere near as bad as it is in Iran. And yes, here in the United States of America, there was a bakery once who refused to make a homosexual wedding cake in Colorado. And that guy spent 12 years and millions of dollars trying to defend his right to not make a gay wedding cake. Meanwhile, the gay couple went to the bakery down the street and got a wedding cake, no problem. But in Iran, if you're gay, you get thrown off of a building. But it's just the same in Whoopi Goldberg's eyes. It's just the same. The View, you know what? Just when you think there's hope, you're watching them and they're having a political discussion and they're actually showing different viewpoints. The whole point of The View, as I recall, when they started like 25 years ago, was to have different viewpoints illustrated. Women with different viewpoints, women from different walks of life, women who see things differently, all coming together and having an intelligent conversation. And now 25 years later, it seemed like they were on the cusp. They were right there. They were so close to having different viewpoints from different women on an important subject in what seemed like an intelligent conversation. And then Whoopi Goldberg said racism. And the whole thing just crumbled. And the other ones tried to save it. What Sarah Haynes was like, look, we got to talk about the women. They're not educated. They have no rights. They have to cover themselves. Sarah, what's her name, was saying, or Alyssa Farrah Griffin was saying, I can't wear a short skirt. I can't show my hair. I have to cover everything but my eyes. She was saying the over and over. And Whoopi Goldberg's like, but here's black people bad in America. It's really, they never disappoint. I'll never be disappointed watching Whoopi Goldberg on The View. Listen, we do have a website up and ready. By the way, a lot of people are writing and saying, hey, can I donate to your campaign? Can I help your campaign in any way, shape, or form? And yes, you can. You can start by donating money. Look, and I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to need volunteers. People have, yesterday even, they were raising their hand going, I will knock on doors and I will hand out palm cards and I will say, here's Mark Kaye. He'd be a great choice for congressperson. Please give him your consideration. And I will pick up the phone and I'll text people and I'll, buy me a list of numbers of Republican voters and I will text them and call them and talk to them and we will make this a reality. We will make it happen. And I said, that's fantastic. And they go, how can I help? I go, well, the first thing we need is money, because without money, there's no photos of me. There's no palm cards to hand out. There's no software or phone lists to buy. There's none of that. There's no advertising. There's no yard signs. There's no bumper stickers. These hats, I have a minimum number of these hats. By the way, I still have some. If you want one, $500 donation and I'll send you one. But that's, all of these so far have been paid out of pocket. Well, as we get into this thing more and more, what we're going to need is we're going to need people to really, volunteer and execute, and we're going to have all of the assets necessary, but until we have enough money, we don't have any assets. So if you would like to make any kind of, I'm going to sound like Bernie Sanders here, $1, $5, $10, whatever you can spare. $100 would be great. $50 would be great, but $1, whatever you want. If you don't want to put one of these red, you can put in whatever, you can pick your own other, just click other, put in whatever dollar amount you want. And you too can go out and you can help our campaign, which we would really appreciate. We would really love, because like I said, it's a grassroots effort right now. And we are doing our darndest. We are doing everything we possibly can to make sure that we have combative conservatives in Congress in case we need to combat the Democrats coming up in the next election. So whatever you can do, we're going to need. I guess I should take my phone number. Out there. We're going to need your help. We're going to need your help for sure. Any and all donations. I put the link in the description of this video, so it's easy for you to find. Just click on it, and like I said, much appreciated. You'll get an instant receipt too. So, all right, real quick. Speaking of money, let's talk about the one big beautiful bill, because the one big beautiful bill. We're getting close. We're getting super close, but Scott Bessent said something really interesting, I think, the other day. He was talking about the one big beautiful bill, and he was talking about how it's going to be helping with the overall economy, and it's not going to hurt as much as some people say, namely the people in the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. And the folks at the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, what they've done is they put together a report that says the great big beautiful bill is a spending bill. And as a spending bill, it's going to cost money. And that is true. Bills cost money. There's no bill that doesn't cost money, especially when it's a budget bill. I mean, we're talking about taking money and spending it on stuff. What are we spending it on? Well, we're spending it on Trump accounts, and we're spending it on the border, and we're spending it on, Dr. Oz is super thrilled because we're going to put together a framework to address the health crisis in this country.
And this one big beautiful bill that I was on in the Capitol Hill today talking about with the Senate is so close to passing, and it's such a wise bill. It's got the framework to address the fraud, waste, and abuse that we're experiencing. And I'll tell you, it's the most ambitious health reform bill ever. And it's just in time because the system is unstable. And if we don't address Medicaid in particular, but the exchanges as well, we're going to hurt a lot of vulnerable people.
Yeah. And so he's saying, look, we got to make sure that we fix the system. And the one big beautiful bill does all of that. It gives people on Social Security more money. It doubles the child tax credit. That's all money going out. But there's also money coming in. And the money coming in, according to the White House and according to Scott Bessent and according to Donald Trump and according to all the other experts that they've lined up, outweighs the money going out, which means at the end of the day, with the one big beautiful bill and the tariffs and the oil revenue and the gold cards and everything else that Donald Trump is doing, the investments in America, the manufacturing jobs, the increase in income tax, because we're going to have more taxpayers paying taxes in the United States, a lower rate, but more taxes. Because of all that, what we're starting to see is that Donald Trump's one big beautiful bill, as part of an overall economic policy, is going to reduce the deficit. And people are freaking out about tariffs, of all things, which is weird because tariffs help to reduce the deficit, which is the one thing everyone says we need to do.
There are two ways to fix the debt. One, spend less, and we are getting spending under control. Whether it's the House bill or the Senate bill, we're probably going to cut 1.5 or $2 trillion of spending. And then through President Trump's trade policies, tax policies, and deregulation policies, we're going to grow faster. So what's really important is the debt to GDP. So it's that number. So we're going to grow the GDP and then shrink the growth of the debt. And that completely changes the trajectory. So we were left with a mess. It was 6.5, 6.7% deficit to GDP. So, imagine a household that's overspending by that much every year. And we're going to bring that down slowly. And I've said I'd like to see the deficit get back to something with a 3 in front of it by the end of the president's term in 2028. That's about the long-term average. And we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And we are constraining the spending, and we're going to grow the economy. Yeah. Nobody does that better than President Trump.
And that's part of it. That's what they never tell you. We're going to constrain spending. We're going to grow the economy. And yes, we're going to have to spend money, but we're spending money on things that are going to make America great again. And the other thing is, of course, the tax cuts. And the one that I talked about this a little bit this morning during the 47 Daily podcast, but the tax cuts, Donald Trump, the genius thing that he did. And, a lot of people are like, we don't need one big, beautiful bill. We need lots of little tiny bills. And what Donald Trump did, what he was able to do was convince Mike Johnson, which, let's be honest, ain't tough. Mike Johnson, not really. He's easily pliable. He's easily manipulated. Mike Johnson, he convinced him to do the one big beautiful bill. Why? Well, because if you vote against the one big beautiful bill, you are voting against tax cuts. In fact, that's what Donald Trump said this morning. He was asked about it. What he said.
Anybody that votes against it, they voted to give a 68% tax increase, and many other benefits. There would be no money for the border. We have billions of dollars allocated to immigration, the border, keeping criminals out, getting criminals out too. If that doesn't pass, you'll get a 68% tax increase. And I would say this, any senator that votes against it, and that includes Democrats, I think they'll be finished in politics.
Any senator who votes against it, I think they'll be finished in politics. Why? Because you're voting against a 68% tax decrease. You're voting for a 68% tax increase. You're voting against all these amazing things. And Donald Trump did that on purpose. He said, all right, here's what I want. And here's stuff. I'm going to wrap it all around the Trump tax cuts. And that way, if anybody votes no for the increased spending on the border or the spending for this or the Trump accounts or no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, if anybody votes against any of that, I can say they're voting you a 68% tax increase. And you couldn't do that if it was separate small bills. Donald Trump knows that. He knows it's all or nothing because that's how you can threaten people politically. There's not a single senator who's not going to have a tough time. I was asked about it yesterday at my event. Somebody asked me about the bill. I go, look, if we don't pass it, it's a 68% tax increase. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. Yes, nobody wants inflated spending. Nobody wants to balloon or blow up the deficit. Nobody wants the $5 trillion debt. But as Donald Trump and Scott Bessent and a bunch of other people have explained, that's not what you're getting, because you are actually getting what you're getting is a spending bill with an income creating economic policy, and they are going to offset. Here's Steve Murin. He's the CEA. He's the chairman of the Economic Council. Here's what he said.
Here are the things that are omitted from the CBO score of the bill that are going to bring the deficit down materially, right? tariff revenue, which the CBO itself has estimated could bring in about $3 trillion overall of revenue, which, by the way, goes towards paying for almost all of for almost the entirety of the bill. And the idea of raising taxes from taxing foreigners from tariffs to pay for lower taxes on Americans, it sounds like great policy to me. But there's more. Between deregulation and tax incentives for investment and additional labor supply and energy abundance, we're going to get GDP growth to about 3%. Such strong growth will bring in about $4 trillion of revenue over a 10-year window. Pushing out the supply side of the economy by encouraging firms to invest, by encouraging more work, by cutting regulations, brings down inflation, which will bring down interest expenses. If we get those back down to where they were before the pandemic, again, an additional roughly $3 trillion over a decade. So these are all things that are going to have very material effects, reducing the deficit, bringing down the debt, and none of it is counted in the CBO score, but all of it matters.
Yeah. So there you go. The CBO is saying, and it's true, the CBO is saying this spending bill is going to spend money. Donald Trump is saying yes, but we're going to make a whole bunch more. And if you don't vote for this bill, we're going to have economic chaos.
I think that folks have got to realize that if we don't get the bill over the line, it's going to be a catastrophe. It's going to be the biggest tax hike in history, plunge the economy into a recession, $4 trillion of higher taxes. It's going to be really bad, and millions of people will lose their jobs.
And that's something that hopefully I hope nobody wants that. I hope even the Democrats don't want millions of Americans to lose their jobs. I can't imagine they do, because then, they love taxes. And if millions of Americans lose their job, that's going to be a big hit to the income tax. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Listen, we got a couple more Rumble rants and a couple more super chats. We got one from Izzy's Man, $10. That's very, thank you so much, Izzy's Man, for your campaign. I appreciate that. We will put that to good use. Like I said, we reinvest every single dollar in the Kaye cause, whether it's the podcast or the campaign or the live streams or anything. And we do everything we can to make sure that we are bringing you all the information and entertainment you need every single day and making positive change. We also got a couple more super chats. Another one from Scott Keller, $20. A white t-shirt and a magic eraser with the word "cleaning up Congress." You are buff in your voice. I'll take it. All right. I'll take it, Scott. I'll see what I can do. Here's the thing I worry about. I don't need one of those Mike Dukakis in the tank moments. I don't need, and I feel like Donald Trump went to McDonald's and he wore the McDonald's, apron, and it worked for him. Donald Trump got in the trash truck, in the garbage truck, and he did a good job. He looked pretty good. I don't know, if I start walking around like Mr. Clean, I don't know that I'm going to come across as Donald Trump at McDonald's. I may come across as Mike Dukakis in the tank. And that's the one thing that I just, I'm trying to avoid. But it's a great idea. I appreciate it. And Christiane Haggerty dropped a $2 super chat. And she said, I miss hearing Susie on Wednesdays. That is true. We all miss Susie on Wednesday. You know what? I'll give you her number. You can just call her, and then maybe she'll yell Trump Day. She'll yell Trump Day for you. Listen, once again, if you're interested in helping out the campaign, we need all the help we can get. Go to, why is my phone number still there? Oh my God, get out of there. Go to markk4congress.com, select whatever dollar amount you can, make whatever pledge you can, because like I said, we're going to need all the help that we can get. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because every single day we're creating new content. If you're on Facebook, you're inundated with Mark Kaye stuff every single day. I know you love it. I know, don't pretend like you don't. YouTube, every single day we're here live. And of course, the podcasts on Spotify, on Apple iTunes, on iHeartRadio, Spreaker app, wherever you happen to be listening, make sure you are subscribed so that you get this downloaded immediately. If you get it downloaded immediately, you never have to worry about having something to listen to. If you're in the car and you plug in your phone, you got the CarPlay, whatever. If you're at the gym and you're like, what am I going to listen to? You're going to have us. I'm going to be right there screaming into your ears if you subscribe. If you say, I want to get this every single day downloaded directly to my phone. And there are people, I went on today to see how the stats were. There were people today listening to episodes from back in March. And that's how you know you're doing something right. If you're doing a daily news podcast and people are so interested in it that they want to go back and hear what you said about news 3 months ago, I think we're on to something. So we're going to keep doing it. Thank you for all of your super chats. Thanks for all of your Rumble rants. Thanks for all of your donations. Thanks for all of your time. And thank you most of all for listening and watching. Thank you for being a liberty-loving, freedom-defending patriot. Thank you for supporting the United States of America. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for tuning in every single day so that you can remain entertained, so that you can stay informed, informed, so that you can stay inspired and enlightened, and so that we can all work every single day to fight, and save the Republic. All right. I will see you tomorrow.